Hello everybody, my name is Tiffany, I'm the Tipsy artist, and we are going live today with the Old Rugged Cross. So this is just the painting I need today. It is very relaxing, very easy to do. Let me show you the model here. So it is a gorgeous painting when it's finished. So we have done this in some of our live shows before. Well, live in person. This is also live, but virtually live. But yeah, when you come to our studio, we've done that here before. And then I've got the trace all ready to go, so let's go ahead and talk about that too. So your template pack that comes with your paint kit basically has a nice cross shape with a set of roses and leaves. And let me give an example of, I don't have that one with me. I sold my last one, yay, today. So we make more, but I had to get those out the door to give to a customer, so I went ahead and gave mine away. But this is an example of what your templates look like when they come to you in the mail. And then your whole painting kit, you've got a big bunch of paints that come to you, and then beautiful brushes, and then also the canvas. So we make everything super easy for y'all. And let's go ahead and get started with the painting part. So I don't know about you, but I need to relax. Right before I came on, I was watching a toddler left in a car with a sibling. You know how kids get to play with the wheel? And usually you're okay with that if the mom's right there and the child is on her lap. Well, mom was gone. And little brother was next to the toddler, not paying any attention. And they're parked right in front of our big glass pane window, and this child's just going nuts all by himself. And then it looked like there was a gear shift right there, and we were afraid it was. And when mom got back in the car, it was. So we were praying. So I'm glad I have a cross that I'm going to paint today. So we were praying that this child was not going to run right into our window. So I'm trying to relax right now. I'm trying to decompress from that experience. All right, so let's go ahead and get some paint going. All right, so this very first shade that we're going to mix up, the beautiful sky background is going to be kind of a mix between a turquoise and like a seafoam color. And so what we've got is we've got these three beautiful colors here. So we have, hi Kathy, we've got blue, green, and white. Blue, green, and white. All right, so that's what we're gonna mix up. If you have our painting kit at home, then what you're going to use will be, let me pull them out. These are brand new, so they're still kind of stuck in the thing here. But Viridian is also a beautiful choice, and then a primary cyan blue with some white. So all of those colors mixed up together will also make this beautiful color. I am going to start with my Mama brush. So this is Mama, this is the biggest brush that you've got in your kit. And I'm going to start with about 3 equal parts here. So I'm going to do a dollop of the white, and then a dollop of the blue, and then a dollop of the green. All right, or if the kit's with a kit at home, Viridian, blue, white, just do 3 equal parts there too. That's going to be your base. So you'll mix all of that together. So it's going to give you kind of a dark turquoise. Then I'm going to add in a lot of white today too, because I want to go ahead and lighten it up. Now, you can use a darker base at home with this color. You can absolutely have it be darker with a darker turquoise. That's absolutely fine. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and add in a lot more white here, really lighten it up. And then the other thing that I like to do too is I actually like to keep all of these colors on hand nearby on the plate, so that I can go ahead and push into those and mix as I go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I've got the turquoise that we mixed up, so I've got that started up for me, and I'm going to go ahead and just crisscross that on, so it kind of looks like, let me move this over so you can see. All right, there, okay. So when you push it on, you want to hold that brush parallel to the canvas and just crisscross back and forth. Then you want to add some mixing while you work. So I go ahead and push into that pure white and just push that back and forth there. So I'll be mixing that back and forth. That's why I like to have some of those pure colors in the mix as well, so that you can kind of keep them boldly in the mix on the canvas. And let me give you another example of what I mean by that. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do a little touch into the blue. So you can see it's really small, but a little tiny touch. And then as you put that in there, see how that makes a really nice little mix as you go. So while I'm doing this, it's very therapeutic and relaxing. And then you just crisscross back and forth. And then remember to go ahead and work back into those other colors too. So again, the white. Now let me tell you what I've got going on with my trace back here. So what I do is I start with my pencil, so that helps me get it all to where I like it. And then the hard outlines of the edges, I go ahead and do those in Sharpie so that those always stay in place. And then I realize too that they're going to bleed through that paint a little bit too. So it allows me to be a little bit more free with my paint, and I don't have to worry too much about lots of little edges all through here. So I can be, it definitely gives me a lot more freedom, definitely helps the process be a lot more relaxing. Now, if you do not have a Sharpie and if you just have pencil, then you definitely want to be a little bit more careful and cautious as you do your cut-in work. So let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit too. So if you are doing cut-in work, what you want to do is you want to use more of the line edge of the brush to go ahead and do some cut-in work around those shapes, because you don't want to lose all that work that you did when you were tracing. So you can go ahead and just be a little bit more careful as you cut in. Also, using a smaller brush can really help. So we've got our little buddy brush here. So little buddy has the little flat top, quite a bit smaller as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and work into that, and this will help you do the cut-in work around these shapes. Just like that. So you can use little buddy to do cut-in work. And then as soon as you can, try to go ahead and shift gears back to your mama brush, so that you can just kind of relax with the process more, and then go back to that cross stroke that comes back out here in the larger areas of the canvas. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue to work in and around this shape, basically just working around a really pretty little rose that I have in place here, little tiny leaves. And as we go through the painted process, I'm going to show you how to make those little leaf shapes too. So you don't have to worry about that either, because those are super, super easy. So it basically kind of feels like you make a parentheses and another parentheses. Hey, that's okay. And welcome. Hi, Christopher. All right, again, just kind of crisscrossing back and forth. I'm going to dab into some of that white and do a little bit of that cut in here. So as you do cut in work, you want to hold the brush a little bit more like a pencil to do a line edge. And then as you fill into the larger areas, then you want to go ahead and hold that brush more over to the side. Just like that, and that will really help work into that background area. So this color today is a beautiful kind of a seafoam color. I keep thinking about the ocean, so I'm super jazzed about being able to paint shades of the ocean today. All right, now when we do our cut-in work, I like to make that shade a little bit more of like a medium shade of whatever we've mixed up here. And then as we get back out into the larger areas, then I can go ahead and play with different colors that we have on our plate. So again, remember to kind of keep it random, kind of keep shifting your hand a little bit and moving it back and forth. Again, basically kind of feels like you're making the letter X, just small little letter X's over and over and over again. And we'll just keep working that all the way around. So this is such a pretty color. I really like it when we do have the seafoam color. It really shows a lot of the different colors as they work into the mix here. And I'm actually going to do another example of some more of those bright, vibrant blues here in just a moment as well, so you can see what that looks like. Now I am covering up over some of that line work that I did earlier, but I know that as the paint dries, it'll just go ahead and pop back out over the surface area. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and crisscross in some more white. And then let's do a tiny little touch of the blue. Just kind of push that back and forth. And I may have to mix up some more here too. So mixing this back up here. Crisscross back and forth. A little bit of cutting work here. All right, I'm out of turquoise. I'm out. So here we go. I got to mix up some more again. So dollop of blue, dollop of green, and dollop of white. Thank you. Yes, happy music. That's right. Here it is again. Always the best. That's right. I got a little slice of country in here for you too. Yeah, yesterday I was watching, I put it on my Instagram story. I was watching a little bit of Rick Steves while I worked as well. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he does the travel channel. You know, that thing called traveling that we all used to get to do, we never get to do anymore. So he was going all over Europe and Italy, and I was watching him tell his beautiful stories and walk along the beach and all that stuff. And then sometimes I watch those YouTube videos that also have this kind of happy music happening all the time as well, where pretty girls walk on the beach all day long and you get to watch them walk on the beach. And then you need to remember to get back on your diet. All that stuff. All right, so again, keep crisscrossing this back and forth. I'm going to push in more of this white into, oh, what's Rick Steves? Some of you, so he used to be on PBS. And he just had a travel show, and he's super smart, and he just talks to people from all these different countries and goes and explores and gets tour guides to be with him, and he just, you actually feel really kind of like you're there experiencing the journey with him. He does a really good job. So I've been trying to spice it up while I paint and watch different things, feel like I learn a little bit while I paint. Because I always wanted to have a painting show where I would actually take my painting projects all over the world, and then we could take a tour of a place, and then we could paint something and then paint with people there. I always thought that would be really fun. P. Allen Smith. Oh, maybe you're tagging somebody. Or I'll have to ask you about that later. All right, so still working in all of this background here. And I'm mixing back and forth between my turquoise and my white. And just crisscross back and forth. Remember to do lots of little tiny X's back and forth here. And we're almost getting done. Well, with the background anyway. All right, now we've got a nice line edge here to do, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that brush more to the side. That will give me a nice thin line. And then I can go ahead and turn it back over to the side and then pull out into the background. And then remember to help it blend back into the texture you've already created. So then continue on with those strokes, just crisscrossing back and forth. And if you can't quite get to the edge, you can always just turn your canvas a little bit too. And by that I mean you can actually just flip it over to the side like that. And that can help you get into all those areas. And then you can just flip it back. So really nice texture happening there, and you can always come back in as long as the paint's still a little bit wet, or you can be prepared to rework an entire area. But you can always kind of work back in a little bit more white if you want to. Nice highlight. I want to make sure this is kind of balanced everywhere, so I'm going to bring a little bit more white up into all the corners. And then I'm going to do a little bit more over here just so I've got a nice even balance of that mix happening in the background. And then I'm noticing that I've got, kind of just taking one last look at this. It helps sometimes when you're painting to also kind of stand back away from it with some distance and just look at it, you know, as a complete composition and see if there's anything you need to add to kind of balance here and there. But I'm noticing I've got little touches of the darkest cobalt blue here and here, but not here and here. So I may want to go ahead and just do little touches of that. So there's that darkest cobalt blue. So I'm going to go ahead and just lightly drag that into the mix just to create that little bit of dark texture in there. And I need to blend that back in with a little bit of the white. Now if you are using our paint kit at home, the paint is definitely quite a bit more heavy bodied and very thick. And if you're also just using any kind of paint that is definitely more of like a professional grade, then you can certainly add a little bit of water to this to help extend it over the canvas. The thing that's really important when using water though is you want to make sure and turn that canvas flat while you're doing that, because otherwise it can just run all the way down the canvas and give you water runs, which look a lot like mascara runs. So those are not awesome. We don't want those. All right, so here we go. We have our beautiful background done. Now I'm going to go ahead and work in the color of, there's not much of the cross that's showing here, but there's a little bit. So let's go ahead and work that in first. And my roses will be the very last thing, roses and leaves. And some of that ornate detail will be some of the last steps that we actually work in here. All right, so the color mix on this. Definitely want some white. And where am I here? Got more paint over here off to the side. All right, so I definitely want some white. And let's see. All right, so there's a couple of different ways to do this. I'm going to give you two different ways to mix. So if you happen to have a yellow ochre, that's the easiest thing to do. It's just super easy to mix. If you have our paint kit at home, it's a little bit different. And so we actually use a little bit of this primary yellow and the white, and then a little bit of black. And I'll give you ratios on this. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna start, I've got some black nearby. So I want this really nice kind of taupe color, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up a nice big dollop of the white. And basically, in terms of coin size, you know, I'd say about a quarter size amount there, little tiny pea-size amount of the yellow. And then with the black, you want to be super sparing with this. You want to go ahead and just barely touch into the black, tiny little corner there. I actually don't pick up black, I just kind of barely touch into it. So I'm going to mix all this together. All right, it's starting to get where I want it to be. It's beginning to look a lot like a taupe, but it still has the yellow undertones that are way too strong. So I want to go ahead and add in a lot more white to this, because I really want to lighten that up. All right, and then if you have pure brown, brilliant, just use pure brown. If you need to mix brown, which we definitely have to do in our kit, so let's do a little visual on that. I am looking for, here it is, cadmium red. All right, brand new. So here we go, I gotta take off the top. Hello, Linda. Yes, miss you too. It's a crazy world out there. Hi, David. It says I can bring you on camera. What do you think about that? You ready? It keeps giving me that message with certain people, and then when I ask them, hey, are you ready to come on camera? They're like, nope. Facebook's got a new thing. So someday I'll get a brave soul that will be like, yeah, bring me on. All right, so I've got, oops, I messed up. Well, anyway, yeah, sort of. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep this brush off to the side. Let me mix up some brown for y'all. So I got to talking and then distracted. So I've got my cadmium red here, and then to mix up some brown, what you wanna do is touch into black. So I mix black, okay, see? Yeah, I need to warn y'all about something. But first let me mix up brown. So I have a little touch of black, cadmium red, mix those two together, and that will give you brown. Lovely. Okay, so we have a nice dark brown there, and then I've got this really like kind of a taupe color happening. All right, so just so y'all know, Facebook is introducing a new thing to where if you wave at people, it's telling me to bring them on camera, and I can actually touch a button and I can make your camera turn into a device that captures you and will bring you on my live for everybody to see. So I don't think people are aware of this, and we could end up having some scary moments. If you know what I mean. Like if people are not dressed for the day and so on and so forth. Yeah, it'd be crazy. All right, I'm going to show you a little bit of some of this mix with brown as well. So you're welcome for that little bit of warning and advice for the future. But don't worry, I'm not going to actually bring anybody on camera because, well, I have sensitivity to all that, kind of understand that people may be a little early in the day for that. Oh yeah. All right, so here we go. We have this really pretty taupe, and then a little bit of that brown that we're gonna mix in. So I'm gonna start with the taupe first. I'm gonna go ahead and just push this down into that cross shape. All right, so there we go, a little bit of that there. And I want to go ahead and make sure it is going through all the parts of the cross, just in case I have any little parts that kind of peekaboo through there. And I want to create the look of wood grain that comes up, so I'm going to go ahead and touch into a little bit of that brown, either that we mixed or that you have straight out of the tube there. And I'm going to go ahead and, while the paint's still wet, I'm going to go ahead and kind of just pull it up through that taupe color. And then it'll get a nice soft blend, and you'll have these nice little blended lines of a softened brown that kind of goes up through that color. So that will be our wooden cross that's coming in through the background there. So there's really just a little tiny section of that that shows. And then I'm going to start going crazy with all kinds of beautiful roses. All right, so that's going to be our next step. All right, so here we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to my mama brush. And then I'm going to go ahead and mix up some really pretty light pink. That's going to be a base for a lot of these roses that I'll use. I also keep a lot of this orange off to the side, and then also a little bit of this bright primary yellow. So we can really pull in some beautiful, vibrant shades to this too. So a little bit of white, a little bit of red. And then let's go ahead and get a really pretty light pink going. And then I'm going to go ahead and push this into this shape here. This is the first big rose that's at the bottom. And then I'm going to just go ahead and smooth this out here. So our roses at first look like big lumpy circles. And then I'm going to add just a little touch of some orange. Just a little bit. And maybe a little bit of yellow in there too. And then we have a lot more pattern that will come in over the top, but for right now I'm going to go ahead and just keep it just like that. Now you can add in a little bit more orange to the mix with this white and the red, and then that will take it to more of like a coral color. I'm going to go ahead and just fill all this in. And this is basically my first step for all of these really pretty roses here. So a little bitty rose here and here. Big one here. And then when we come in with pattern here in just a little bit, then we can really start to bring in some different layers of different beautiful color. Another one here. Got a little baby one here. I might make that one a little bit darker so I can see those. So I'll bring a little bit more red on those. This is still my mama brush that I'm using. Go light again, make these pretty big, fill those in. Let's go back over that one. And then top one here, still really light with that pink again, and we'll just go ahead and fill all that in too. Gorgeous. Okay, so next, well actually not yet, it's not quite gorgeous yet, but we got a nice base going. Hi Donna, how are you? All right, so now what we're going to do is our first layer of pattern. So we need to come in with our little bit brush. Here we go, little bit. Here's a little bit. Okay, so this is the smallest brush that you've got. And I'm going to do a quick little twist here into the white paint. All right, and then when I start to lay this down over the side, you know what, and I need to get a better positioning on this last row. So I need to go ahead and turn it. Let's turn it, make sure you can still see. And good job, you can. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this brush on over to the side. And I'm basically just pushing the brush down into little like half circles. And I keep pushing these on all the way around. And keep working those little half circles all the way around till you work towards the inside. And you'll basically just run out of room here. So that'll be our first step. All right, so I've got my positioning how I want that to be, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back. Now let me make sure that, okay, good, you still see it. All right, so I'm going to do that same thing on all the other roses here. So again, this is our first layer for all roses. Again, just lots of this white, and I'm just kind of doing a little light push and little half circles. You definitely don't want to be too neat and tidy with this stroke. It definitely has a little bit of a shaky quality to it. So finally the shaky hand is your friend. Yay! And just kind of keep pushing that all the way around. Yeah, we don't want too much perfection because petals are definitely very, well, they're just certainly not like perfect little lines. A lot of loose organic quality to them. Thank you so much. And hi, Leota. Yeah, we're going to start with these light shades of pink, and then we'll actually come in. Normally I just do about 2 shades on the rose in most paintings, but today we're actually going to give it a few more layers of color. So today we'll come in with some beautiful, vibrant pops of primary yellow, and also a little bit of some orange too, red, coral. We'll show all those. All right, so again, this first layer of pattern is just white and little half circles all over the top. And the more you do these, the more you get used to it and you have a lot more freedom as you do it. But I find that laying the brush over more on the side really kind of helps get the nicest petal. It's just really pretty, and you just almost want to wiggle your hand just a little bit. And again, just think of like making like little half circles all the way around. All right, so first layer, I did that one there in the center. Light little touches there where the paint just rests right on top of the canvas. All right, now we made little tiny baby roses in here, so I want a little bit more of a finer circle in there, circle effect with my stroke. So I want to go ahead and twist into the white just a little bit more. So there I go, I've got a smaller point there. And then let's just do some tinier little lines as our first pattern. Being a bit more cautious with this pattern over the top because it is a much smaller space, and so I don't want to just completely cover over the entire thing. Again, this is a much smaller rose, so tinier little half circles go over these little shapes here to make those tinier roses. Yay! Okay, so we have our first layer down. It's starting to look really pretty, and we still have more work to do. Some people love the simplicity of this, but I'm going to continue on with more colors here. So I will still use my little bit brush, and then I'm going to come in with some primary yellow. That's going to be next. And let's see, I want to make sure this is a little bit more fluid. So I've had this paint sitting here since yesterday, and it is kind of really thickened up a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and get some that's a little bit more fresh. Yeah, this will be easier to move. All right, so here we go. All right, so my little bit brush, I'm going to touch into that. Let me show you what I was talking about too. So this yellow is still pretty awesome to use sometimes if you're trying to get really thick coverage over the surface area, but you can see how it's really set up, and so it's extremely thick. And you can add a little bit of water to that to help loosen it back up again. You just want to make sure that the water's not running. But see, this paint is fresh, so it's extremely fluid and very easy to move. So that's kind of what I'm wanting to get right now. Easier to move. All right, so I've got my little bit brush here, and I've got it loaded up with that bright primary yellow. And I definitely want this to be a little bit brighter here over the top of this rose. I'm going to push a few more of these bright accents. You want to have a super gentle hand on this, because if not, it'll just dig right into what you've already done and just kind of blend into it, or even just scrape it off. So again, super light hand, just barely touch the canvas and let this yellow just gently rest right on top. And basically you just repeat the same strokes that you just did. Those little tiny kind of half circles that come all the way around. Just kind of randomly place those in. And then I might want a few of these little touches of yellow. I'm going to be a little bit more sparing with it throughout the rest of the little roses, but I want a few little touches of this here and there. So I'll do a few more of these up here. And then there. And then in here. All right, next accent color will be some orange. I want a little bit of that orange. I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick little wipe with this brush just to, I don't necessarily have to completely wash it all off, but just wipe it down a little bit. Since yellow is so close and so much lighter, I can go ahead and just wipe it off on the paper towel, and then I'll go ahead and come into some of this bright cadmium orange. And then I can do just a little bit of an accent here right in the center. So I'm going to do little center accents with the orange here. And if you want, you can kind of play with this a little bit. You don't have to do exactly like me. You can do a few more little tiny touches of the orange here and there. So just tiny little accents. I'm still going to be a little bit sparing with that. I just want that to be more of an accent. All right, so now I am going to come in with a little bit of red. So that's going to be my darkest shade here. And so I definitely want to make the pop, you know, basically the centers of each rose just kind of pop out towards the front. So then I'm going to come in with my little bit brush. And I didn't even wipe it off that time because orange is just basically, you know, right under red in the color. So it'll just mix right in with that red, and the red will overpower it. So I'll just go ahead and push into that beautiful red. And then I want to go ahead and do that little pop right in the center here. So I'm going to push down for that circle and then lift off with a light hand. And then I want to go ahead and lay down a few little accents here with the red and just kind of push that around too. Again, kind of keep those really light and sparing in there. Not as many of those same shapes with the red as we placed in with those lighter colors. I'm going to be, again, a little bit more minimal with the red. And y'all just heard my puppy dog run through the room. That's kind of what that little Tinkerbell sound is. All right, so there's that little center shadow in the middle of the rose that we just did. And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of swish in a few more little accents of the red. These are going to be like those little shadows that happen with the petals. All right, right again there with the shadow in the middle. And then here. And then again, just maybe a few more little accents that happen. A few more here. Again, being a little bit more minimal with the red accents because I want to keep it kind of light. So I definitely want that pink to be quite a bit more like overpowering in the process. All right, so I've got that, and then I still need to kind of bring out those tiny little roses in there. So I'm gonna do a little pop of that red right in the center, make this a little bit tinier little strokes for those tinier roses. Little spot right in the center. A few more little circular accents coming around the outside. All right, pretty. Okay, so we have our beautiful roses done. And you can certainly adjust these if you like a much lighter look. You can definitely just back off a little bit on the darker colors and just bring in a lot more of the white accents and be much more minimal with those darker accents. Or the reverse can be true. You can certainly darken them up and go the other direction too. All right, my next stage here will be to do some of those really pretty little leaves that'll come out through around the detail here. So let's come back to that turquoise that we were mixing up in the beginning. All right, so I've got my little bit brush, and I've got my green, and I've got my white, and I'm gonna mix those up. So this will give me a really pretty spring green. Very lovely, so I can use some of that. Also, if you want to do a nice mix of some sage green, I have some of that in the model. So with that, what you want to do is you want to just barely touch into the black, and super, super tiny on this. So barely touch into the black. And then I'm going to go ahead and mix that into my green. That'll kind of pull it to more of a sage color. And then I want to add a little bit more white to that. All right, so there's a really beautiful sage color. So basically that white and that black blends to make a gray, and then that mixed with the green makes that really pretty sage color. So we have some of that, still have some of that darker turquoise. I also might want to mix in like a more dark contrasting turquoise. So I'm gonna add a little bit more blue, a little bit more green to push that to a teal. Also at home, if you've got our paint kit, you'll want to use the Viridian color. It's really pretty and it looks very much like a teal color. So that can also be a really pretty leaf color here too. All right, so options, we've always got some options here. All right, so down here in this bottom section, I'm gonna go ahead and do some of these tinier leaves here with that little bit of the sage color. And the shape of these leaves, I said earlier we were gonna talk about how to do that. All right, so let's show you on a plate. All right, so basically a couple different ways to do leaves. So you can do like a parentheses and then another parentheses and then fill that in. And then always coming in right next to it with one that's a little bit smaller really helps it look more like a leaf. And then you can also do something that kind of looks like the letter V. It has a little bit of that curve to it. So come down like a V, come back up, and see how that also looks like a leaf. And then you just fill that in. All right, so a couple of fun different ways to do a leaf. So it always helps to connect with a very common shape that you make all the time. All right, so here we go. I'm going to continue on with little tiny branches that come out, and then a few more little tiny leaves. A few of these too, they're kind of all over the place. And then I'm going to touch into a little bit of this darker turquoise that we mixed up. You definitely want to make sure it's got a stronger concentration of the green in there so that it shows up over the top, or else it'll blend with your background. And I'll pull that into that fun little leafy bouquet that comes in and around our little roses here. So again, it kind of looks like little parentheses, and then fill that in. And in just a minute too, I'll come back in with a little bit of the brown, and I'll show you how to do like maybe like little branches and everything. Hi, Audrey. Audrey came and painted with us this last weekend in Guthrie. We were adventurous. All right, let's see. I want a few more of these that just kind of come out. I'll do like little tiny light drags to make the little branches. And hi, Sean. I'll make a few of these little leaves that will kind of come out of the branches. It's kind of off to the side here. So you can just kind of go nuts with these little leaves. They're just kind of, they can be everywhere. Now in the model I did these top leaves in a lighter color, but in today's model I'm going to go ahead and try something a little bit darker for fun. It's kind of a different look. So I'll sort of frame it out with this really pretty kind of turquoise look. Just lots of little delicate lines. You definitely want to wiggle your brush a little bit while you do that. And then again, those little tiny leaves, kind of looks like little parentheses, and you can fill in. And then as you're filling it in, then you kind of go back up to the top and kind of bring it out to a little point. And then that little leaf that kind of looks like the letter V, you can have some of those kind of pop out around the edges as well. Let's see. All right, and up top here, I'll do these little tiny leaves up here. Kind of looks like a little crown of leaves. So I did one really big one in the center, and I had just did a little hand sketch of this in the beginning. Sharpied it on there so it still bleed through and I could see it later, and just kind of pick it back up here. And then as I came around each side, then they got just a little bit shorter on each side, so it just makes a nice little crown up there. All right, now I'm going to come back in with a little bit, it's still a little bit brush, but a smaller little bit here. A little bit tinier at the top. And then I've got a little bit of that brown that we mixed up. And so I want to add a few little details with this too. So I've got my little bit brush. I'm going to do a quick little twist into the paint. Nice fine point. And then I can just kind of lightly accentuate some of these little areas here. Basically almost just making what looks like little tiny branches. Kind of adds to that framework. And then I can do a few, basically it's the same little leaf pattern, but I just do a few tiny ones with that brown too. And I just kind of randomly place these around the shapes, have them come out here to the side. Just tiny little touches. And they can also kind of act as a nice little outline around some of these little leaves too. Kind of helps make them pop out in front a little bit. So let me give you a better example of that too, like down here at the base. You can go ahead and, that's optional, or you can just leave it just the green coming in over the top too with a little bit more of a subtle effect. You can also soften this brown up just a little bit by adding a little touch of white to it. And so that also gives it a more of a muted effect, a little bit more subtle. And then up here at the top, I really want to make those stand out at the top. So I'm going to come back in with that brown. And I'm going to do a quick little outline around those shapes. And that'll help define that. And then if you do like the look of the lighter color, let me go ahead and show you that. That's a little bit of gold and the white. So you can play with that too if you like that lighter look. Or it can just be a little bit of a blended look over the top of the green, like what I'm doing here. You can also add in soft little touches of that on top of your green leaves too. This makes for a really nice little accent. So I'm just kind of doing a little push with that lighter shade mixed up, which is just that white and the gold. All right, I have a little bit of that scrolling action that's supposed to happen up there at the top to really help pull this together. And so I'm going to go ahead and twirl back into the brown. I want to make sure that it shows up over the top, so I'm going to touch into a little bit of the black with the brown. Kind of take it to more of a teak brown so that it does show up. I definitely want a nice fine point. So I'm going to go ahead and twist into that paint. And then I'll go ahead and do some of this scrolling work that I placed in here. And I'm using my little pinky to help stabilize my hand. So I'm resting my pinky on the canvas so that I can do these little scrolling motions. So let me talk about the scroll here too before I continue on and do this. With the scroll, people get kind of frustrated with this step, and so I tell them it's a lot like making the number 6. So it feels like that with your hand. And then you can practice on a plate, helps you get used to it, and then you can, you know, if it starts to throw your mind off, because obviously this is the only way to make a 6, but if you have to make it in different directions, you can also just turn your canvas too. So, but basically that's all that is. It's like a little curly cue, but again, it feels like how you make the number 6. So that helps people. They all of a sudden they connect with it that way, and it makes it a lot easier for them to paint. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and twirl back into that color again. Again, it's that kind of a dark teak brown. I've got that black and the brown mixed together. And I'm going to continue making these little scrolling shapes. I'm going to have a little bit more black here. So this is a small brush, and a lot of times what happens too is it will run out of paint quickly because it is so small, and you'll get that dry brush look. So you will have to sometimes reload a lot. Just to even help you finish out the next part of the step here. Alright, and then I want to make sure that I've got a little bit more of an accentuating line around this center part. So I'm going to do a little sketch of a line around those little leaves again. And then if you want to do a little bit of a dark outline, kind of to frame it all in, you certainly can. I'm going to do little pushes of this darker black and brown kind of all the way around, just to kind of help bring that balance in with the style. Just little tiny touches, like a little sketch that kind of comes around here. Keeping the hand really light. Just little tiny touches all the way around. All right, man, I think I'm done. It's pretty exciting. Okay, so our final step is to sign your masterpiece. So then of course I come in with my little bit brush and I do a nice contrasting color. I do want to make sure that my brush is nice and dry. Whoops, my paper towel got buried, so I had to get it out. Had all kinds of stuff on it. So make sure and dry this off so you do not get any water runs happening. And then I'm going to go ahead and come into that black again, and I want to make sure that it's really fluid. All right, this black has been sitting up for a little bit, so it's a little bit, it's kind of hard to move. Thank you, Cindy, and hello. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to add, I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. So if you have really good paint at home, or if it's sitting up a little bit like mine has, and you need to get back to that point where it's nice and fluid, you can go ahead and add a little touch of water to this. The caution is that when signing, make sure, especially if you've added water to it, just make sure you turn that canvas to the flat position so that you do not get a water run. Because a lot of times, beginners especially, they don't have a good handle on how much water is too much. And so they'll end up getting a water run here. So I'm going to go ahead and just sign my masterpiece. And there it is. We're all finished. The old rugged cross with roses. So really pretty. We did a little bit of a darker color scheme this time than what we did in the model, but still loving it. It's very awesome. And you can always adjust to your taste with the colors of the roses and the leaves, and certainly keep it much lighter. If you like the look of the lighter roses and the leaves, of course, then you're going to want to switch gears to more of a lighter pink with sage green that will come in. And then today we just actually pushed in, I think, brighter, bolder reds, and we did a little bit more of the like teal leaves and things like that. But you can certainly lighten it up if you want to. All right, so there it is, and whenever you're done, you just put those brushes right back in the water. They'll be all good to go. But we are done, and if you're interested in knowing about the kit, everything that comes with this, just go to tipsyartist.com. We provide everything that you need. So just look there, and I am painting live a lot this week. Definitely will be coming back Thursday at noon. So check our events to see what I'm painting, because I can never remember what I'm painting. So something beautiful. I know it'll be amazing. But yes, come back and paint with me Thursday at noon, and y'all have a beautiful rest of the day, and we'll see you soon.